Hello and welcome to Casual Buddhism. I'm Cindy Rasicot, your host, and I'm joined, as I am every week, with Venerable Dhammananda Pikani, Thailand's first fully ordained Theravada nun. And I'm so excited because next week, Venerable is going to be on a Zoom presentation, a special event with Inside LA. It's called The Heart of Meditation. It's at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And if you'd like to join us, which I hope you will, just go to Inside LA's website and you can sign up. So as we do every week, we have a special guest. I'm really happy this week to have my friend Gretchen Sherrington, who's an author just like me and whose book I am happy to say I've read and really enjoyed, Poetic License. And tonight she'll be sharing in a conversation with, of course, with Venerable. And Gretchen, I know you have a couple of thoughts in mind. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Cindy. I'm really delighted to have been asked. And Venerable, I'm very pleased to be here with you. This is a very exciting moment for me. As I mentioned to you, I have been to Thailand a couple of times. And so Cindy's story was very important to me when I read her book last summer. And that was really my first introduction to you, was through her book. So we've been talking about you since then, and I've been learning a little bit more about you, and I'm just very excited to be with you tonight. Tonight for me, and I think it's morning for you. So I wanted to start with I guess it's a question, but I'll tell you a little story first. This was back 35 years ago or so. I was going through a divorce, and I decided to take a month off in the summer to just collect myself. My children were teenagers, and I was running a new business, and I just needed a time out. And so I took this time off, and I was sitting out on my porch one morning, kind of staring at the green grass. It must have been springtime in New England. And I noticed that an ant was crossing my field of vision, and the ant went from one side of the lawn to the other side of the lawn with something in its mouth, and then came back and picked up another thing in its mouth and went across the lawn again, and must have done this 20 times or something like that. And I stared at this ant, and I can say it was the first time in my life when I ever really truly felt like I was one with the ant. I felt connected to this little creature, and as if I was no more important or less important, and as if I was, just kind of like the ant. It was really a profound experience for me, but I have to say I haven't really experienced that since. And I was wondering if you would have any advice for me about how to, I love being outdoors in nature, and so I come to being outside very easily, but I haven't really had that experience since then. So I would love to hear any kind of wisdom or advice you might have for me in that way.
Your story reminds me of a great Chinese philosopher. As he was watching butterfly, then suddenly he thought whether he is butterfly, thinking that it is a human being, or he as a human being, thinking that he is a butterfly. That crossing the boundary of being that ant or being Gretchen. You know, once when that, how to say, the wall falls off, you know, in fact, if you go one step further in our Buddhist practice, there is neither you nor the ant. It just simply that pure experience.
Okay.
Yeah? So in fact, the experience you had is what you call it, one level of meditation, which many people seek. many people seek to arrive at that stage.
I see. Okay.
Completely letting go of that Gretchen.
Huh.
See,
So how would I find that more, do you think? Or how
so
would I?
that the trouble with you now is you are clinging to that. You're clinging to that
Lots of
moment.
troubles with me. Go ahead.
You're clinging to that moment. Now you like that
Okay.
and you want to have it again.
Ah,
But when it actually happened to you, there was no clinging. There was no you, Gretchen. There was no, in fact, there was no, that particular ant, you know, as you,
Right.
you were sitting there watching her, I think it's a female ant.
okay, that's good.
That's why she's collecting food, you know, for her family.
Yes, yes.
It's a completely wall of Gretchen falls off, you know, and that is actually the purpose of our practice, Buddhist practice,
Okay.
so that we can simply let go. That letting go, it sounds very easy, but
Right.
it's very difficult.
But it's
very
not.
difficult when it comes to practice. But in your case, it just happened.
Right.
Right?
And
just happened.
And it sounds like you're telling me not to, that by wanting it again, that won't be helpful. That I need to just let it happen.
Yes. Yes. So that is very beautiful experience, Gretchen. At least you have experienced it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
you have experienced it and you know it is possible.
Yeah.
You know it is possible to look at this thing without Gretchen.
Yes.
You could actually immerse into that particular ant.
Yes.
So I'm not sure whether that ant emerged into Gretchen.
Maybe. I love the way you're saying that because it's giving me a new look on it. It's I hadn't really thought of it as me sort of disappearing, you know, or however you say that. So that's really helpful to me. That's very.
So it could be, you could add it to your poetic license.
True enough. I like that. That's great. Well, let's see. I had another question I wanted to ask you, and that is that I know I've certainly have suffered myself in a variety of ways through my lifetime, and I also have friends who suffer, whether it's for medical reasons or disability reasons, or you know, because there's some kind of oppression against them, and I don't always know how to support them. So it's not so much about supporting me when I'm suffering, but how do I best support others when I feel, or when they tell me that they're suffering? What would you advise?
You know, sometimes at that particular moment, you just simply look, you just simply be with her, 100%. Give yourself to her in that particular moment. If you are physically together, you can reach out and hold her hand. Let her feel that, yes, you recognize her suffering. Yes, you share with her that suffering. Maybe simply that, Gretchen.
Okay.
That is what we often need, but we don't get it.
Yes.
No,
So
yeah, that understanding, that allowing others to share with you that suffering. Very important. Very important.
Right. And as I think about that, and Cindy, I think you and I have talked about this. I feel like, you know, I feel like that's when I have felt like someone was really supporting me. That's what they were doing, now that I'm thinking of it. So it's really returning that favor. And maybe Cindy, I don't know if you want to comment on this, but it seems like that's hard to do sometimes, to really, you know, in a busy life and all of that. So yeah, so Cindy, maybe you can weigh in on this too.
There's so many thoughts going through my head, but what I hear from you, Venerable, is being present, being as present as I can be with the other person. That means I'm hopefully in my body, I'm breathing relaxed, I'm intent on connecting in the simplest way I can, which is reaching out with a hand, which I never thought of. Sometimes I feel inspired to do that when someone is really hurting, but it's like what we really want most of all is to feel cared about and heard. And it's such a gift when someone can just sit back, and when I can do that and not be busy and involved in my own self and really listen to and appreciate where the other person is.
You know, like suppose if someone come with all kind of suffering and ask to see me, what I'm doing while she's telling the story is that I'm watching the clock all the time, you know. And it tells her that I am not with her.
Right.
That is a very easy way to hurt people. Instead of helping, you know, we're not helping. So be totally, I have only 5 minutes for you. Suppose I have only 5 minutes for you, Gretchen, but this 5 minutes is yours.
Right.
I give you my total self to you at this moment. And I think that sincerity to open up and to listen without Dhammananda listening, you know. Dhammananda also has to give up Dhammananda to be able to have this pure listening. So that's why it's one of the practice to have this pure listening.
I love that. You know, it reminds me in some ways back to the ant story, in a way, right? So we're kind of doing the same thing. I mean, we would, if we could, we're sort of getting away from ourselves and really connecting with the other person, and connecting by simply listening. And I don't mean that simple is easy. But that's what we were talking about, I think.
That is so beautiful, because when we actually experienced that, I loved what you said earlier, Venerable, about when the wall falls. I think you said when the wall falls.
Right.
And I remember you said something to me very early on. When I was walking for the first time in the temple and I started crying, and you said to me, people often cry when they come here. If you need to weep, weep, because that soft you comes out. And that wall falls away. And then I'm really here. I'm open-hearted. I'm coming from a compassionate place. And that's not always easy to do. We can't always get there. But when we do, then there's this joyful sense of connection, and feeling one with everything around us. And I think that's a good place, I think, where we'll end tonight, because I know it's the end of Vasa and you have a lot of things to do today, Venerable, many things to celebrate. So thank you, Gretchen, and thank you, Venerable.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate it.
To both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would hope that I can invite other people on to be guests with us. You can contact me on my website, cindyrasicot.com. So thank you very much. And I think we'll end it here. And I will say happy end to your Vasa, Venerable. Thank you, everyone.